Good evening, everyone. This is the second public hearing for the Charter Commission. Good evening. This is the second public hearing of the Limerick Charter Commission. This is to take comments for the proposed draft development of the members of both elected and appointed. We'll start off with a preliminary report that's required by state statute. We'll just kind of give you an overview of what we've done. In November 2022, the Town of Limerick Board voted to place on ballot the formation of a Charter Commission. The residents of Limerick voted overwhelmingly in March of 2023 to form a Charter Commission for the purpose of developing a charter, which is like a constitution for the town. In Maine, it's known as the broad home rule. Authority under our state constitution and laws provide towns with great flexibility and discretion to craft a governmental structure to suit the town's unique needs. A charter is the vehicle for developing the structure, allowing a town to enact its government and municipal laws, so long as they do not run counter to state law. The concept of home rule is important to local government. Absent home rule authority, towns depend on specific acts of the state legislature for governing authority. State statute provides for specific procedures a town must follow to create a charter. Under this process, the select board appointed 3 members of the Charter Commission, and the voters elected 6 or more in March of 2023. On April 15th, 2023, our Charter Commission held its first organizational meeting. We agree to operate by consensus, requiring compromise while ensuring that every decision that we make would ideally have the approval of all members. If we could not reach a consensus, we would put the question to the public before voting again as a commission. Every decision made to date has been consensus. Now in June 2024, after scores of public comments, input, guest expert presenters, several events, dedicated volunteers and staff assistants, 23 meetings, hundreds of hours of collective labor, and over a year of work, our Charter Commission has tailored a preliminary draft of a charter for the town of Limerick. This preliminary draft charter contains the select board, town meeting, government we currently have, while also providing an updated framework for governance to meet the needs of the town. It takes a long-term view, more clearly defines how our town government functions, and provides a strong citizen-led democracy, public participation, and civic engagement. The next step is to garner input from a preliminary draft of the charter for the residents through the public hearing scheduled today. After receiving public input, we will finalize the charter over the next 2 months. Once completed, the Charter Commission will submit the charter and final report to the Select Board and the public, which will vote whether to adopt the charter at the November election. This report contains brief summaries of each article in the charter, followed by a preliminary draft of the charter itself. Please review this report and know that we welcome your input. Respectfully submitted, Charter Commission, and the members Demetria Pellegrino, Cindy Mullis, Laura May, Dennis Crowley, Joanne Andrews, Wendy Thorne, and myself, Dave McLean. We gratefully acknowledge the contributions of Carl Hagan and Scott Davis, who resigned from the Charter Commission in 2023, respectively, due to being out of state for a significant period of time. So, that being said, we drafted up 9 articles and put them in place. As we said in the preliminary report, we had countless meetings and debate. We looked at many other charters around the state. Not to recreate the wheel, but we took some of those provisions in those with like-sized towns. So, in consultation with Natalie, this has been reviewed by her on several occasions. We've corrected things, and if you look in this, if you've read it over, there are still some things that we need to tweak on that. So there could be some grammatical errors in there, and we still have a couple months to take care of those things. So we have the granting of powers, Article 1, town meeting and elections, board members, administrative organization, boards and committees, petition and referendum, business and financial provisions, recall on, ordinance, recall article, and amendments and revisions. So, these are the 9 sections that we thought, would, go into the charter for, approval, by the residents. So, at this time, I would, if anybody on the commission would want to say anything in regards to, what, the work we've done so far? Joanne?
No, I think we have people
Yep.
here that probably have
So-
questions.
So at this time, we'll entertain any questions or any comments, any suggestions, and come right up to the mic, and we will certainly entertain any questions that you might have.
Howard Burnham. In reading, let's just see what page I've got here. I was under the impression, talking with someone else in town who I thought was on this committee, and she's not, that we were going back into a 3-member selectman board.
What's that?
I thought we were going back to a 3-member board.
I'm not sure we ever talked about 3 members.
No, we never did.
No, I did.
Well, we talked about we're gonna maintain a 5-member board. We never addressed the issue of possibly going back. The subject did come up one time to whether to go back or not, and everybody decided, right away that no, we did not want to go back to a 3-member board. We felt the 5-member board better represented the town and shared the work.
Well, it's awful funny that we went from the inception of the town up till just a few years ago with just a 3-member board. We didn't have a town manager and everything. Now, granted, this town has grown a little bit, but I fail to see why we need 2 more. As far as I'm concerned, those 2 extra positions are useless. And as far as the town manager is concerned, if we've got 3 competent select people, we don't need a town manager. And they also have to be, I know when I was on the board, and I know back years ago with Joanne, we met every week. There was no taking off for holidays or anything else. We were here dealing with the town business. We were paid to be here every week. We didn't have the option of taking every other week off and still get paid for it, which is garbage. So I just think we're going down the wrong road here. No town manager, go back to the 3-member town board. The policies, I agree with you. There's a couple things in here I think still got to be tweaked, as far as I'm concerned anyway, but as far as the other part that bothers me a lot here is that if they do go town manager, the treasurer and the town clerk are going to be hired by the town manager. Now, what's to say, just as a scenario, if that town manager hired that treasurer, and then all of a sudden, things got a little bit crazy around here, and something gets paid that nobody knows about, and it was audited by the town manager. Right now, if we're spending things, it's got to go through the selectmen. But you're having one person that's telling another person, write that check. Okay? You say no, but it can happen. There are cases, Wendy, in this state, you know just as well as I do, that the treasurers have been caught for embezzlement.
That is true.
So, if you got one person that's telling the other person to do this, they're both guilty. But if you've got a warrant and you've got 3 selectmen that have to sign that warrant to approve that expenditure, 3 is better than 1.
Let me expand upon that. May I speak back?
Yes.
It will still be handled that way. Warrants will still go through that same process to the treasurer, the town manager will review them, but the select board will still have the final say on those warrants.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They'll have
The-
have final say on anything to do with finances.
I see nothing in here that says when the selectmen are gonna meet. No, is it gonna be weekly?
It is referenced in here, I don't remember what page it's on.
Well, I don't care what is referenced, put it in writing.
No, it's, when I say reference, it's talked about.
Say they're gonna meet once a week, whatever hours it takes to do the business.
You know, I don't know how much discussion you want me to get into, but when it comes to the meetings, the select board, it is their option when they see the need, when and where to meet. That is their option. But for the most part, where the town is getting bigger, you should be really meeting every week, and you've got a lot of things going on, right? You know,
So
you got a
if
lot of
that's,
things going on.
if you're saying that, and I'm agreeing with it, why don't you put in writing, they say they will meet every week, period.
It says the board shall meet regularly except holidays at such time and places the board may specify by rule and at least twice a month.
Well, you got the key word, regularly.
Regularly, at least twice a month.
But that doesn't say specifically, you have to meet once per week.
We're saying that at least twice a
every
month.
other week.
Where does it say it in here?
She just read it.
Section 3.9,
Page 9.
page 9.
I guess I'm not seeing where it is on here, or reading the whole page.
Where it says meetings.
Right at 3.9, it says
Okay,
meeting
yeah.
code.
Okay, the other problem I have, and I think I mentioned already, is the timing of these meetings. It says except holidays. Instead of having, we know all the holidays fall on a Monday. So when do we have selectmen meeting now? Monday. For years, way back, I know when I first got on the board, they always met Wednesday night. We had no holidays to deal with. So if they went back to that, we'd have them meet every week, that wouldn't have to be in there.
What's that?
But I'd agree with Tuesday.
I don't care if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but Mondays are definitely a problem.
Well, the way I read this, it doesn't say that you're gonna meet on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that the day can be set by the board as long as it is, you know, meets the needs of the other committees and boards around. So if you've got other boards meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday, then you would have to meet on Thursday or whatever day is possible. And right now, where the holiday is on a Monday, they meet on Tuesdays. They're supposed to meet on Tuesday.
Okay, but if there's some other night, like I said, when we used to, back in the 90s, okay, 80s, we used to meet on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And that got changed because we got a new member on the board that had to see the soap opera on a night there, so we couldn't meet that night.
No, it was actually me who changed it.
No, it wasn't you.
Yes, it was.
Okay, you're the second one then.
It wasn't a soap opera that I wanted to watch. I wanted to get the meeting over with for the week.
But you see where I'm coming from? So
Yeah, I
it's too
understand.
specific on none of this taking off every other week, because as far as I'm concerned, pardon the expression, but the taxpayers are getting screwed. Anyway, I'll sit down and let somebody else talk.
Thank you.
Howard, excuse me, Howard, you said you had a few other issues in here. It'd be nice if we heard those now so we can try and address them. We keep notes on what we're talking about here. Okay, thank you.
Merrill Farron. First, thank you for all the work that you put in, which has probably been a phenomenal amount of hours. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
On page 4, I have a question about call of special town meetings, 228. A minimum of 15 registered voters shall constitute a quorum for a special town meeting. I don't know if there's nowhere written any rules, but if the 5 select people are here, and they're obviously town residents, and they probably are all voters, I assume they're registered voters, I don't think they should be part of the quorum determination, nor anyone presiding over the meeting and the vote, that it should be independently 15 I think is a small number. I'm not saying that it hasn't classically been a small number that make a decision. These special meetings, that's why so many people have said we shouldn't have special meetings, but they may be necessary sometimes. But I think it should be defined in there that it does not include the select board members or anyone else who's running the meeting. So if you have to call someone to preside over the meeting, moderator or whatever, I don't think they should be in the registered voter count of 15. Just an opinion. On page, when it came to select board, being 5 members, I also,
Where are you, Merrill?
I'm on page 6, but it's just a discussion that's already been started.
Yep.
I would lean more towards 3 select board members. You're trying to make this palatable to the town when you're saying we are now going to be hiring a town manager, and our expenses for that are going to be brand new ones coming into the new budgets, and therefore it's, this thing is already in question by many people. I think if you can reduce what's being spent, I think it could be worthwhile, and 2 less select people. There certainly is not more work a select person is going to be doing. If you have a town manager, there's going to be less. I mean, that's just a reality. On page 7, continuing education, which is 342. I was hoping you could add the MMA's manuals for the respective boards as part of continuing education materials. And I don't know if it would fall into this section or somewhere else, but I think there needs to be a time limit set and a requirement that these have been met. It's sort of loosely written that if someone's not qualified to be on a board, then they vacate it. But it's not really a statement of what's qualification and how long. And as we know, loosey-goosey doesn't work very well when it's come to other ordinance issues, and therefore I'm suggesting that you put a time limit for individuals when they join a board to have enough time to have reviewed a minimum amount of credits or materials. I mean, I'll just use the planning board to be an example of the zoning board of appeals. They should certainly have read the ordinance. They certainly should have read the manual that is for land use that the state provides. They should look over the MMA's manual. The ZBA, similar thing, they should know their ordinance back and forth. They should know the planning board's ordinance and zoning ordinances. I should say it's not the planning board ordinance, zoning ordinance. They should know that back and forth. They should be aware of the MMA's manual of their responsibilities, because that's how you're going to reduce your legal exposure.
May I speak to that, Mr.
Yes.
Barron? On page 8, 3.72, forfeiture of office, it does talk about persons shall forfeit the office of the board, and it lists 4 of those reasons.
I'm sorry, you're so down the bottom, I'm sorry.
So it lack any, at any time, any qualification for the office as prescribed by this charter or by law, intentionally violate any express provision of this charter, or convicted of a prior felony, failure to take the required continuing educations as prescribed by this charter, and 3 unexcused absences. So that takes.
And I apologize that I don't remember having read that.
That's
But it
okay.
doesn't put in there a time period. And that's where you can be 4 years down the road, and someone says, well, I read this, but I haven't done all the rest. Who's to say what the requirements are? The town manager is going to establish what you need to review, but I doubt in their material, because it's not defined in here, that they're going to set up the time period under which it has to be achieved.
Good point.
Well, with you can look at it as like with the Freedom of Information Act, you have so many days to comply with that, to take the training on it, which I believe is 90 days, and, but nothing happens to the person till I have never known no one not to do it. But you could set a time frame like that, 90 days.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, it be written.
Yeah.
And you folks think about what is realistic, because, again, I guess everyone knows that I've spent a little time in court with the town, and it's because of looseness in rules that there at least is one portion of a problem, and that costs the town money. Next one, I think the last one that I can remember is page 15, and it's a minor thing, but the definition of deputy, there's nothing in the definitions in the back, so I don't know. When it says 4.3 C, municipal officers may select deputies as authorized by state law. Appointment of such deputies must be approved by the town manager. I guess I just didn't know what's the purpose of a deputy, and I doubt anyone else is gonna really know that either without someone defining that. So, thank you.
Yep, thank you, those are good comments.
David?
Yes, Joanne?
I'd like to speak a little bit, because we've had two people now that have brought up the selectmen, the 5-member board, and the money that they make. Let me
Absolutely.
remind everybody that these selectmen put in a great deal of time, not just at the meeting. They don't make $100 a week. I think it's about $92 a week. When I was on the board in 1999, we got $7,000 a year. Not $5,000, not $6,000, but $7,000, and the chairman got $7,500. So when they went from the 3-man board to the 5-man board, everybody agreed, and $1,000 was deducted from each member's that night when we went to the 5-man board. So back then, I just figured it out. We were getting about $130 a week, and the current board, they're not even making $100. So it's not the money, it's the people that fill the positions and what they do during the week that people don't see. I know they're going all the time, they're getting phone calls. It's a lot of work, and we got we're getting about 60 to 90 new houses a year. I see it at the transfer station. We're new in town, we're new in town, we're new in town. I don't know where these people are coming from, but every one of those people deserve to be served by someone. And the 5 people that are in there now can't do it. We have to have a town manager, especially for HR. We do not have an HR person in this building, and that town manager will be in charge of the employees, and it's long overdue.
I do believe we spoke briefly about going to a 3-man board, and one of the roadblocks is if you go from 5 back to 3, it's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight, because those people that are elected have to term out. So you'll still have a 5-member board along the way, and you're gonna have to have at least 2 of them term out at the same time. I believe we do now, 2 people term out. And I thought, one of the things that I thought about is that it's gonna be a transition for a town manager. You're not sure who you're going to hire, what their education level is going to be, what their experience is going to be. They're going to have to lean on the select board and every employee in this town as it is to learn the ins and outs of the town of Limerick, because every town is different. The laws, main laws, ordinances are all basically the same for the most part. So I think it would help with the transition. And again, as Joanne stated, we do not have a human resource director. The laws are getting more and more complicated for personnel. And now they just passed one regarding Family Leave Act. Now you have to take out anybody that employs more, I believe it's more than 15 people, that employer has to pay 1% of the total wages, and then the employee themselves has to contribute at least 1% of it too, so it's a match off to it. So that's something new. We were going over it today at work, and it's gonna be a little complicated and when it starts, so.
Anybody else want, Howard, go ahead,
Okay,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just want to get everything that we can
Yeah,
to discuss in the next couple of months.
yeah, Merrill kind of prodded me on one of these. I'd like to know why on the annual town meeting, well, let me back up.
We're
On the warrant,
What number are you, Howard?
2.23,
2.23?
the articles. Now, I realize sometimes that when you're looking at a budget or something, you got a last minute thing. Why do we have a 45 day and then we've got a 30? Why don't we just have a cutoff? We did that for years. You know, and that saves this business of having these sheets that go on the side explaining everything. The other thing that goes along with that is on what Merrill mentioned about the participants at the town meeting. You've got a minimum of 40 for the town meeting, but yet for a special town meeting, you're only allowing 15. It's a meeting. Okay, irregardless, if you're talking town business, what's the difference? It should be the same. And I agree with him as far as you shouldn't be counting the selectmen in that figure. They should be not even considered in that figure.
That's one we really, really need to look into, because you're taking the right away from a registered voter, and I don't know that you can do that, because people sitting at this table are registered voters, and
That's true, but they also made up the warrant,
right.
so.
I understand
That's-
that, but that's a gray line, but we'll have to look into it.
I think, Merrill, you said, as far as on 3.4.2, the continuing education program should be mandatory. The word should be inserted, it shall develop a mandatory continuing education program. And they must show documentation after they've taken that. You know, anybody can say, well, I went down to Saco or someplace and sat for an hour and listened to this video or something, and come back and no documentation.
Usually,
You
if,
gotta have a paper trail.
usually if you do it through Maine Municipal,
Certification.
Yes,
there's a certificate that's mailed out.
Okay, I'm just,
No, I
it's
hear what
not,
you're
it's
saying.
not in here though.
we can put number 9, documentation
Yep.
I think I've got one other one.
documentation of certification.
I guess we just don't have a town manager, plain and simple.
Howard, I'm sorry, just on that requirement for documentation and coming back from continuing education, the charter, we do not want to get too verbose, too specifically detailed. Something like that it has a place inside the personnel policies.
Okay, as
That's where-
long as
that's-
it's in it.
Yes, but that is not being driven by the charter, and now that is something that should be taken up then. Again, because if we get too detailed in the charter, anytime you want to do anything, then it calls for a whole charter commission change. So we're trying to keep the charter this is the general outline, and certain areas, and, you know, as has been mentioned here this evening, you know, personnel issues need to really be addressed. That personnel policy needs to be completed, which is not part of the charter. So when that gets done, those types of issues should be in there. And when that's worked on and those policies or whatever are voted on or displayed, then that would be a time to speak up and say, this should be in the policy for that.
But when you're dealing, listen, you're making, stating what their duties are, things like that. One of them should be to take that course, MMA course or whatever, but you gotta have the documentation. I know some former selectmen that never walked into those meetings.
Right. But that's true, and like I said, that should be part of the policy. We can't say that specifically in here, because if they discontinue that course and they come up with something different, then that would require a charter change. So that's why we can't put that type of information in the charter. That type of information will go into a policy, the personnel policy, which is easier to change. You know, a charter commission requires getting 9 people on a board and going for a year, and, you know, all public comments and votes on it. So that's the problem with it. We can't get too specific.
So, but, and I, without going back and reading this, if you put it in the charter that they must go by their
Personnel policies.
personnel policy and provide documentation where applicable.
Okay, that's a good way to word it, yes. Okay,
Thanks, Howard.
thank you.
No.
I have a question about that personnel policy item. Is an elected official of the town have rules under the personnel policy?
No.
Correct. So if you don't put something, then board members, I mean, you have board members making important decisions that are costing this town. And I can give you examples, but I don't think you need them. And Joanne, I do appreciate what the selectmen do. I'm thinking that when there's a town manager, you're going to have someone who's luckily taken a lot of that responsibility off of selectmen's
I hope so.
shoulders, and that's why I think a reduced number can handle that supervision. A transitionary time is obviously going to happen because it's the reality of voted in board members and terms of office. There was a third item. I hate the senior moment.
All right. Your question about elected officials, they have to be in compliance with the personnel policy.
I don't know how you word it. You have the lawyer who's going to stand behind you and say this is a reasonable thing. I'm going to just say that you have elected individuals who have not taken their education and who are making important decisions, and it is responsible, in my opinion, for why the town's spending some monies that it doesn't need to.
As far as elected officials following the personnel policy, the current elected officials that you have now, the select board, there are things that they wouldn't necessarily follow, that a regular employee would follow. But I know that some of the other elected officials, like the town clerk and the tax collector and the treasurer, would follow along with that because there are benefits listed in that personnel policy now that they get, that the other elected officials get along with the regular employees, or time off, the days the building's closed. I see your point, I understand that. I don't know, and it's a good question, how, when you run for the position of selectman or select board, you have to be a self-driven person to do all the work that you want to do, and you need to, this in here, this section here, for 3.4 and 3.72, to me drives it home that you really need to do this if you really want to do this position. You really need to take, be self-educated, take the programs that are needed to take. State law will tell you what your qualifications are to run for office. 18 years old and a registered resident voter of your municipality. And it's it's, you've gotta get the others that are on the board with you, who are self-driven, self-taught, need to put the pressure on the other ones. Somehow, I don't know how you do it, but
Well, many of us have professions that require continuing education.
yes, yeah.
It's a reality of the real world, and an executive position, which I consider all these boards to be, I don't think it's unrealistic to have that need to have that education. I would love to think that everyone is going to do it, but I don't believe that's true. I don't know if it's enforceable from a legal perspective, so again, you have the ability, although the select board just said no one can call the attorneys unless you go through them, so I don't know if, I assume you still will have ability to go talk to Natalie, but ask her these questions. I just think it's realistic to expect people to know what they're doing.
She did review this, and she didn't question what we have here written already in the article that states, you know, that there are certain reasons that you can be taken out of office. you know.
Right, but it doesn't really have something that's strong in regards to removal.
Right.
So I agree that, and I stand corrected about there is a section forfeiture of office, failure to take the required continuing education classes as prescribed by this charter. So
Yeah.
the charter is saying we make a rule. It is black and white. It's not in the personnel policy, but yet, when do they have to take it by? 4 years down the road? 8 years because they are elected again to office. Or 6 years, I'm sorry, 3 and 6. And I'm just trying to suggest that there is something in there that's
Yep.
more concrete, because it's pretty filled with holes, and maybe Natalie will say, you can't do that. You can just make it look like it's important. I
Well-
wish I didn't say anything in public so that everyone can realize now that can and cannot.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good point, and here's your point, because we do have a recall ordinance. So do the others who feel that one select board member is not pulling their weight, or a citizen at large can have that person recalled because, and we did not address that, we didn't address that there, and that could say, which is cause for recall.
It's a great task to do a recall, as you
Yes, it is.
probably know, and reading what you have for the criteria, you know, you're gonna sit there and really spend some time. And very few people have that much energy in this community, because they're employed, working, trying to bust their buns, doing 1,000 things to say that they're gonna be out there and canvass for getting a petition done for a recall, et cetera. It's my recommendation. Just,
No,
I think black and white makes it
Mm-hmm.
black and white.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I made another note. What
Just
was your-
tell us where you are. Tell us where you are.
No, this is just a general question.
Okay.
What's the rationale for not electing the treasurer and the town clerk?
I think myself personally, I think it gives a more organizational structure where there will be a focal point of people reporting to one person, and the town, the organization, working as a whole towards one goal. That's how I view it.
I can see, to me, this looks like a big power struggle.
I don't look at it as a power struggle, I look at it as organization, maybe, hopefully, I can say those words, and that it will help bring down costs. You don't have a push me, pull you situation going on at any time. You have one boss, which will be the town manager, will be, you know, if there's people who have doubts or insecurities about who their boss is going to be, it will be that town manager is between the select board and the employee. Select board and the employee.
Especially my fear is if you don't have the treasurer who is gonna be bonded,
They're going,
and
Still me, Bonnie.
they can be pressured to do something. And depending on how strong that person is, either it's gonna get done legally or illegally. It could happen, I'm not saying it's gonna.
No, and I am not disagreeing with you. It can happen now, or it can happen as an elected official, it can happen as a non-elected official, as an appointed person or an employee. And we've been graced all these years with having people that are very honest and upfront with everything that they do. They wouldn't do anything to harm the town. But it doesn't, now, if you have a town manager type of format, you have that person, unless that person's, you can't trust that person, but if you have that town manager type of format, they're gonna be watching everything. There's gonna be there's dual control going on, but there's more. You hope that now, right? You hope that now, because we've had audits, we've had things like that, and I'm not saying anybody's ever done anything, but sometime in the past, maybe something did happen. And maybe it was just a general mistake. I don't know. But it could happen, but we can't look at the negative, we have to look at the positive of it.
I think it's kinda odd if you're electing the selectmen and the overseers, but you're not electing the person that's watching the checkbook.
I work in financial institutions, I've worked in many financial institutions, and those people, I'm one of those people that watches the checkbook. And I have somebody watching me, and somebody watching her, and somebody watching this one. So that and we need to have policies that state, or ordinance, however you wanna look at it, that puts those dual controls in place. I have not seen a policy here that has dual control. Dual control means treasurer writes the check for the warrant, for the invoice. First it goes to the town manager reviews the invoice, says, yes, that's a valid invoice, gives it to the treasurer. Treasurer hands it off to the select board reviews it. Select board could say, no, we're not paying that because we didn't authorize that.
As they have in the past.
And that can happen. So that is your checks and balances right there. Checks and balance, deputy was mentioned for town clerk and the treasurer. There's a checks and balance right there. One, as long as they're not like this, and want to take any money, embezzle, or whatever, that checks and balance is there. You've got one person writes a check, the other person balances the checkbook. That's how it should go. So if you have a deputy, you would have the deputy maybe balance the checkbook, and the treasurer writes the checks. However they want to work it out, it's up to them. And that's your checks and balances.
Well, I'm well aware of that.
And you have your auditor, you have an auditor. If you feel at any point in time, because some things can pop up just like that if anybody's embezzling money, they can be seen right away, and other things are embedded. And it probably wouldn't hurt the town every now and then to have a deeper audit done. And it has no reflection on the person who's doing the job, it keeps everybody safe.
I just think based on the population of this town and the growth, it doesn't warrant getting that bigger government.
To get what?
To have the government get bigger.
I don't know how big we need to be. Like I said earlier, we did throw around talking about going from 5 to 3. That will be a transition period. As with the people that are elected now, such as the treasurer, town clerk, and tax collector, they're gonna fall into that little bit of a transition period. We need someone to take care of the policies, the ordinances, the contracts.
More money.
Please.
Yes, it is more money, but it costs you more money when the mistakes are made. We spent a lot of money on lawyers' fees these last few years because of clerical error. Somebody purposely did something.
People sitting on their butts.
Those are the reasons that it's cost us money. And to me, I don't expect us or feel that the size of this town, because the salary, average salary in the whole state of Maine for a town manager is 85,000, but I don't know what that average, I don't have the number of the size of the town. We're approximately 3,500 people. We may not need to pay someone that much, and if we get someone, we may not need someone who has a higher education, you know. You could probably get somebody who's had experience with another town and decides to move, and they might be happy with a little bit lower, because you're gonna give them benefits too.
I hear what you're saying, but I'll go back to what I said to begin with. You get 3 competent people to run the town, you won't have a problem.
Well, the way you do that, Howard, is you're gonna have to
Hire them.
Well, if you're gonna have select board members who are no longer elected, or who are no longer elected officials,
No, I'm talking, elect 3 competent
right,
selectmen.
but you have to have those 3 competent people, and you have to define competent.
Right.
Define it, and do it, and you could have a job description. I heard rumblings once that to run for some of these boards, you could define what that job, description is, you know?
And it should be, but I think right now we're.
But as the way state law, you know, that's a gray area for me, you know. I appreciate your opinion and your advice, and not,
Just to be done here, the other thing that really concerned me, this meeting wasn't advertised.
Yes, it was.
yes,
When?
please.
Absolutely.
Is it the shopper's guide?
Shopper's Guide.
2 weeks. Yes, it was.
Well, it must have been awful small print then, because I couldn't find it.
And it's,
And it's been announced.
it's on the town website.
It should be right.
My senior moment
You-
passed tonight.
Came back.
Got it back.
For now, it's up there.
228, the prior discussion that we had, and Wendy was saying that, that you have a board that are legal voters in this town. And another solution is to increase that number to 20 in order to, if you can't do it through the basis of the attorney saying that you can exclude the selectmen from the vote, then increase number of voters that have to be there. Again, I have difficulty with a special town meeting and the fact that a big decision could be judged by such a small number of people. But 20 is better than some of the meetings I've been to. And I know that you're gonna say that we have trouble getting people there to do these big things, but
Well, sometimes your special town meetings are on secret ballot. Okay, you have secret ballot questions, and if you're saying that I need to eliminate them from, you know, the open town meeting, and you can't vote, so now you have to say, now I can't vote on secret ballot, or can I vote on secret ballot? So there's what, I find it to be a gray area.
that's why I'm saying, just increase it to 20, then you don't even have to ask
Yeah, that's true too.
the attorneys and we put a little more buffer. I just think that if you include the 5 select people, then you only have 10 other voters that have to be here to make potentially a big financial decision, or a big decision of some sort.
My
That's-
opinion,
That's not a great idea, and I know that I should be trusting on my board, but just,
you know, on large ticket items, should not be voted on the floor, be voted on, you know, a special town meeting. They should be voted on secret ballot, or if at the regular town meeting, and if it's an open town meeting, but we all know that the attendance to those has decreased greatly. You know, COVID had part to do with it. We gotta stop blaming COVID now, we just have to blame it on people's lack of interest. That's what it is. Can you believe I said that?
Thanks, Merle.
Final word.
Meeting adjourned, no.
I find it ironic that we've been sitting here talking, and if there's so much, if these selectmen are so interested, why is it we just have one here tonight and not the other 4?
Well, we could put her on the spot and ask her the question, but I'm not going to.
If they're concerned about this town, they should have been here tonight. Either that or get the hell out, one or the other.
Stephanie?
Before we vote on the charter to bring in a town manager, are we going to have a job description written ahead of time so that we understand the full tasks? And maybe a matrix that says, this is what's going to transfer off of the select board's plate to the town manager, okay? And then these are the duties that have been neglected that the select board will pick up and address until that such time.
To respond to that, so the Charter Commission is not charged with writing that, as you know.
I understand that.
Yep, so it is up to the select board to write, as far as I'm concerned, to write this job description for the town manager. Now, simple as it may be, you don't have to go out searching on the internet, go to Maine Municipal, go through the charter, find everything that it says that you reference the town manager in, and what their duties are going to be. We state that the town manager will write policies, and those policies will be reviewed by the select board for final approval. They will write contracts or review contracts. So everything that's in here, plus any more required.
Well, that's what I'm asking. What's the other plus?
Well, you know, you can always say in a job description, and any other duty is required by your supervisor. I've got a lot of them.
In previous years, we have gotten into a lot of trouble with elected officials as well as hired employees because they have stated that is not in my job description. Okay?
But that little note in
So
there.
it doesn't matter. If you hire someone without some type of guidelines to say, this is what you're going to do, charter or not, okay, you're opening yourself up, in my mind.
Well, if you have the charter, as I was just saying, so the other job descriptions, that's gonna be under the purview of the
Town manager.
town manager, okay?
Well, he's got a lot, that's what I'm
That's
saying,
right,
though. There's
and
a
that's
lot to do, and I understand keeping 5. But you're asking people to spend a base salary of $85,000, probably another 15 to 20 in benefits. So you're looking at a $100,000 position here in this town, and you are not going to have any type of documentation other than the charter.
No. Back up, because you didn't listen to what I said. Let's back up a little bit.
Well, I mean, are the select board going to have a job description?
I just said that it is the responsibility of the board to write the job description for the town manager.
Is it going to be done before November,
And
before we vote?
Here we go. This is not under us.
I understand that.
That's not on us. But if I was on the select board still, I would be using this charter, if it passes, to write the job description.
And here's the thing. Most of these positions also have an employment contract that states this will be a 3-year position. And if I leave after 6 months, you still have to pay me my 2.5 years worth of salary.
There will be a contract done.
I mean, I'm not saying,
I get you.
but I'm just saying, we need to make sure that we have our ducks in a row, because we're going to be asked to approve this in November, which is fine. We're going to put a number in the budget for their salary, and then we're probably going to start advertising in January or February if it's approved, and the only document that town manager is going to have is the charter to refer to. That's it, right?
This is the,
You hope not. We hope not.
Job description.
but,
Thank you for bringing
and that, so, your
If it
point,
happens.
and then your point about, you're over $100,000, I don't, possibly, depending on who you hire, but if you can get someone who is willing to take on the challenge to do the job, you won't you should not be in that range because we're still a small town, you know? So, if you do your job,
Anything? Anything? Okay. Good. Dennis, anything?
No,
Cindy?
all set, thank you.
I took some notes.
Good.
How many more hearings you have?
We have one more, by state statute, there's one more, and it'll probably be in a month and a half, sometime in August. So,
we have to make sure we're done by the first week, I believe, of September. I was
Right.
checking with Dee Dee that this
Yep.
be a final draft.
the final draft has to be for the first week in September, I believe. Yep, has to be. So we have one more public hearing. So what we're gonna do is, over the next couple of meetings, we're gonna work on this, and then, make sure we run it by Natalie to make sure it's good. We'll do a final, public hearing, and, take into consideration some of the feedback that we got here. So I think there was some really good ideas, and some really good points. So,
Just remember, whatever she puts in there, she can take away too. When the next on the line,
Who?
Natalie, the lawyers and the lawyers, you look at something, then deny the ever talk.
I hate to tell you, but I'm one who will argue with a lawyer and tell them that I don't agree. You know? You know, so, that's just because that's their opinion, you know? And if I'm following the law, and myself personally, and the rest of them can vote their way, but if I know that I'm following the law and I feel that fits for this town, then it should go that way.
We realize too much on that.
Unfortunately, we've had to.
So thank you, everybody, for attending, and, no other comments, we'll close the, public hearing, second public hearing. Thank you for coming.